All right, so a week or so ago, I posted this question: would you rather have $2 million now or the body of your dreams for the rest of your life? And I'll add to that, would you rather have $2 million now or your ideal health as well as your ideal body? Because that really goes hand in hand with what we do here is health and physique, they are a representation of each other. And I got a bunch of different comments here. So a lot of people said body, a lot of people said 2 million. And it's a thought-provoking question that I have personal experience with, having worked with tons of different types of people, all different backgrounds, all different uh affluent levels, financial levels, and all different types of health experiences. And I was training a client that day actually, and he posed that question because he's a business owner. He's got 40 employees. He's got all the financial resources in the world, but he struggles with his health, and it's a daily battle for him. And he's like, I can do all this, but this is the hardest thing that I am tackling here. The guy, he built a business during COVID, and he's like, it's nothing to him. But his health, his body, that is a priority for him. That's why we work together, because he needs to put energy and focus into it. And I wanted to share a story that relates to this, that relates to the journeys that we're all going through and why it's so important. I think we can all understand that question and see both sides to it. But a question I was thinking about earlier today in preparation for this talk is, would you rather have your financial life, your financial situation accounted for, debts paid off, or money for life, or whatever it may be? Or would you rather have health issues? Or let me reword it this way: would you rather have financial issues, or would you rather have health issues to deal with? Right. And that's kind of the reverse or the polar opposite of that type of question. Would you rather have 2 million or your ideal health and body, or would you rather deal with financial issues or health issues? And I think that's a different way to really route it, because I woke up this morning and I was kind of just in a little bit of a funk. I got up at 4 a.m. and just kind of had just this low energy about me. And I was just kind of propping myself up, going through gratitude just to kind of reset my mind and get tuned in, because we all go through shit. We all go through moments of call it low energy, low vibe. And I was just kind of retuning myself, and I ended up going through a Facebook feed, and one of the guys in my wheelhouse, he's a strength coach. He's dealing with cancer, and his family posts about it, and he shares about his journey. And it's not like a low grade cancer, not that to put any level to any or weight to that condition, but he's gone through years and years of chemotherapy and risking his life every single time he goes in, and his family doesn't know when he's going to go or if he's ever going to make it, but they're so damn positive. Even through chemotherapy, he comes home and he attends soccer games and baseball games and has to go back into the hospital at 2:30 a.m. because the ambulance had to be called because he was having joint and bone pain so severe. That's a symptom to the chemo that he's going through. And I read that, and I'm sitting here going, why do I feel like shit at 4 a.m. in the morning when this guy has to leave on a Sunday night at 2:30 a.m. and he's got kids and his wife, and they're all rooting for him, and they're all happy to even have a small amount of time with him. And it retuned me right away. You think about all the problems that we have in life, and then you hear these situations, you hear these moments, and it's very humbling. It's very eye-opening. And it kind of goes to the old adage of we would always take our problems over anybody else. So, Sean, raise your hand, man. Go ahead and share.
Yeah, as tempting as it is, man, when you first posed that question, man, my first mind went straight to that 2 million, man. I will be honest with you.
Hmm.
But the more I think about it and listen to you talk, especially about that story, man, that money doesn't do shit if you're in bad health, man. It does nothing for you.
Absolutely nothing. 100%. And that was what I was kind of interested in seeing what other people said. And I had a girl on there who posted about she's got rheumatoid arthritis, and I think she's in her 30s, and she's dealing with an autoimmune condition that just it causes severe pain and low energy and all sorts of issues. And she's like, I would choose the body, the health over anything any day. And a couple other people chimed in about that. I have personal friends who are going through autoimmune conditions that they don't know what is the actual cause to it, but it eats them up every single day. They spend their time, they spend their money, they spend their energy figuring out how to fix these things. And we all have little things. We all have things that we deal with, whether it's just a weight loss journey or just trying to dial in our nutrition or just try to dial in our lifestyle just to get that little extra percentage off to be the best versions of ourselves is ultimately what we can all agree to, what we're in this game for and why we spend time on this. I mean, this vehicle that we have, the body, is the greatest vehicle that we were ever own in life. If you had a Ferrari out there, you're going to be treating that thing, keep it garage kept, give it the best oil, change the brakes, polish it up, keep it, in the best condition possible, because this thing is of high value. Yet what do we do to our bodies? We're constantly abusing it in some way, shape, or form, whether consciously or unconsciously. Why I'm wearing these glasses, right, is to prevent some of the debris and the environment that we surround ourselves with, to reduce the impact on our bodies so that we can get the most out of it. And so all these things that we talk about is ultimately to become the best versions of ourselves, and that leads to the financial gain and the excitement and the feelings that we want in life, right? It ain't about the money, it ain't necessarily about the health necessarily, it's about the feelings and the experiences that we get by having those things. And we're willing to go through work, pain, sacrifice to ultimately get something of higher value. I heard a quote today from Bob Proctor who said, sacrifice is about giving up something lower in nature for something higher in nature, right? So you're giving up something of a lower nature to get something of a higher nature. That's sacrifice. So when you put time into the gym, when you eat healthy food versus eating shit, when you don't drink versus other guys are drinking, when you sacrifice something of a lower nature, which would be shit food, poor habits, sleeping in, not doing the work, not getting in your workouts or anything like that, you're sacrificing the things that would be comfortable, a lower nature, for something of a higher nature, to elevate your body, to elevate your mind, to elevate your life. And this is something that permeates through all aspects of our lives. You become more confident, more energized, more of a better version of yourself when your health improves. And we can't always say the same about the financial gains. It amplifies who you are. Finances amplify who you already are. Health amplifies already who you are, but in a different way, right? It's more of a holistic approach when you approach it from a health standpoint. And it also helps you to regulate and utilize your finances in the right way to be able to get the most out of life, both in the short term and long term. But it's not so much of an instant gratification, it's more of a delayed gratification. We know, the formula. What's the best choice? Delayed gratification. It's going to give us the best, most happiness throughout life, throughout the long term, as opposed to the instant gratifications, the processed foods, the poor choices, the instant high, the quick dopamine hits. Those things don't lead to long lasting elevated energy, happiness, joy, abundance, all those things. So you get the picture, and I appreciate you sharing that, Sean, because that's really, I think every one of us could kind of pick and choose and make an argument or a reason for both. One of my buddies here, I want to share this actually. I thought this was actually a really good comment that I just saw. And my buddy Mike Blaze said, actually, both. Most people who claim that they would rather have one or the other would never enjoy either one, because even if they did acquire them, they would lose it. They would lose it all in a short order because they don't have the discipline, the drive, and the commitment to keep it and grow to higher levels. Highly successful people do it all, keep doing it, and never stop, because it's a way of being. Right? That's a way of being. It's you don't want just one or the other, you want both. And I think that's really a great answer ultimately, right? Why can't you have both? It's not one or the other. You can have both. And that, in essence, is a different way to look at it altogether, right? You don't have to sacrifice your health to gain your finances, and you don't have to sacrifice your finances to gain your health. When we talk about being able to create and manifest things, it's like that is the true abundant mindset right there. But it does show what priorities, what, put the horse in front of the cart, what's going to drive the whole thing. And at the end of the day, I think we can all understand and agree that health is going to be the thing that drives all other aspects. Your ability to create, your ability to earn, your ability to give back and provide more value in this world, in the market, is all going to be dependent upon your health. My buddy and colleague being an example, and this guy's still a soldier, being able to show up and go to his kids' games and still do these things while going through major freaking chemo. I mean, he posts about going through chemo and having a 50% chance of having a heart attack going through this therapy. Imagine getting a needle and going 50% chance I'm getting a heart attack, but I'm doing it. And it's like, that's the shit that he faces all the time. And they still come back with gratitude and love and appreciation. And it's just a great reminder of what we have and what we have in front of us, and what not to take for granted, what to really appreciate. And that's going to fuel you to, put your passion into your health, because it's going to give you back more into your own passion, whatever that is that fuels you, that gives you drive, that energizes you. So I want to get into a personal story about this, and I think it really helps add more substance to this topic. I had a client. He was vice president and vice chairman of BMO Harris Bank back in the day, and he came from nothing. He joined the Marines, and he after the Marines got into the banking business, was a bank teller, and worked his way up throughout his whole entire career. Started at the front desk, at the banking desk as a teller, and worked his way up to vice chairman, vice president. And he had, obviously a hell of a success story. And I was introduced to his life after his retirement. This is when I went and started training on my own. I used to train at Lifetime Fitness as a personal trainer, and then I left out on my own and started doing in-home training. And his wife reached out to me. His friend actually reached out to me, and then I got in contact with his wife, and they were looking for a trainer to train her husband at home, the VP, the retired vice president, and his name was Chuck. So she told me Chuck was a special case. He used to be completely able-bodied and was, obviously this very successful man. And after retirement, and we hear this a lot with executives and guys who dedicate their life to their career, is after retirement, the health goes and something just completely flips, and they have a heart attack, or they die, or something severe happens. This is not an uncommon case with guys this successful who dedicate their lives to their career in such a way. I mean, this guy was just dedicated to what he did and who he served. And she told me that he was on a ventilator. He was, I believe, 70 at the time. So 5 years after retirement, he was on a ventilator, and he had a whole bunch of issues. He was paralyzed, and extreme case. And she's telling me this over the phone, and I just told her, listen, I can't promise that I'm going to provide any value here, but I can go over there, check it out, meet you guys, and see if this is a good fit. but I can't promise you I'm going to be fixing anything. I can just help with whatever you need. And they wanted him to move. They wanted him to get up, get on some weight machines, and get some movement and circulation going. So that's all they were asking for. And I was confident that, I could at least see if I was able to do that. So I go over to their house, get more of the story. I meet him, meet his wife, and get more of the story. And so what happened was Chuck at 65 retired, and a week later, he and his wife went down to Charleston, South Carolina, where they had a second home. Beautiful mansion down in Charleston, South Carolina, right in the Battery, which is the historic district, really ritzy pritzy, very beautiful place. And they were going along the boardwalk over there, and he aspirated a banana. So he was eating a banana while they were going for a sunset walk together. And the banana, you're not thinking anything about eating a banana, right? He eats a banana, and instead of going down down into the stomach, it goes into the bronchioles. So there's an esophageal sphincter. It's this little flap that basically blocks the food from going into the lungs versus going into the stomach. And the esophageal sphincter is controlled by a nerve. It's like a muscle, and it basically just works, and we take it for granted every day. We don't think about it, and it's just something that naturally occurs in every able-bodied human. And a week after retirement, this banana goes into his lungs, and he contracts bacterial pneumonia. Goes into the hospital, they fix it, and then they also identified an issue. They said that the nerve is not functioning properly along the esophageal sphincter, and it's causing, food to get into his lungs. So this was a concern. So they started doing more testing, looking into this. And as weeks and months go on, nerve damage starts to become more severe. It starts in his neck, where he starts losing function from his neck. So his neck's literally, dropped down like this. He can't lift his head up. So he's able to move around, but his head is dropping down. This is weeks and months after retirement, where he didn't really have any symptoms really going on before this. And I say really because at 50 something, he started developing a little bit of a tremor, kind of like a little Parkinson's tremor, nothing major, but he started taking medicine for it to reduce and eliminate the symptoms of the tremor. And this is Western medicine at its finest, right? Let's mask the symptom. Let's give you something that is going to reduce the symptom, whether it's good intentions or not. It's not getting to the core reason of why he was developing that tremor and that issue in the first place. So there was a nerve issue going on in his 50s, took a pill to be able to suppress it. And then after retirement, he has this issue with the banana. And then they start to find out that there's maybe some other issues going on. They can't really figure out what's going on, but something's happening. And now his neck is starting to lose function. The muscles in his neck are starting to lose function. And as months and years go by, he starts losing more physical capabilities, right? So now, fast forward 5 years later, I'm in front of him on the side of his bed. He's laying there with a tube out of his stomach, a breathing machine that connects to his trachea and his throat. He can't speak. He's completely mentally there. He can look at me. He can groan. He can blink as a signal or a way to communicate with me. And he needs a machine to breathe. And that's where he was at that day that I met him. And so I was able to, he was able to like kind of squeeze his muscles and get some activity going. So there was still nerve connection there, but he wasn't able to move any limbs. Not enough to be able to lift his arm, just enough to squeeze his hand or open his hand just a little bit, flex his feet. But other than that, he wasn't able to lift any limbs. And I was able to take him up and be able to pick him up from the bed, put him in a wheelchair, lift him up, put him in a machine, strap his hands and strap his body and strap his head to a machine so he could be upright and do some pulls or do some pushes or do some bike pedals on specialized machinery that they had in the house. And I had the muscle and the capability to be able to lift him up and move him and do all these things. So I said, yeah, I can stretch him, I can move him, I can get him around. So we started doing that. And I worked with them for years, years and years and years, spent 4 days a week, an hour and a half to 2 hours at a time with these guys, with his wife and her husband, Chuck. And me and Chuck would talk for an hour at a time, but I'm talking to an individual who can't speak to me. I'm talking to an individual for an hour at a time and extracting information and stories of his life. And of course, his wife was able to help with this as well. But I've been able to like really dive into his interests and who this person was and how his mentality is, and what got him to the level that he got to, and ultimately what were his wins and his shortfalls and all these things. And it was a very unique experience for me, and it really is interesting to talk to somebody who can't talk to you, but yet you can create a conversation through yes no answers. And so I was able to pick apart this guy and really get to know him on a personal level through just extracting information and asking questions and sharing stories myself. And so Chuck was a guy who planned his whole life, after working his ass off, and he had a great life. He did great things for him and his family, and developed great friendships and relationships along the way. And after retirement, his plan with his wife was to travel across the US and he was a drag racer. So on the weekends, he had like old vintage Pontiacs with, 800 horsepower, a whole garage full of these vintage cars. They were just beautiful. It was pretty kick-ass to see all that. But after retirement, they were going to go travel the US in their RV and take these drag cars with a drag car and go race across the US. What an awesome life. And he obviously couldn't do that after retirement. And as one of my mentors, Tim Grover, Michael Jordan's trainer, did a whole talk on after Kobe passed away. I had mentored with Tim for about 2 years and attended a lot of private calls with him. And he did a talk when Kobe Bryant passed away, and it was on time. It was on the fact that we think we have time. We act like we have time. And the reality is, none of us are promised tomorrow. None of us are promised tonight. None of us are promised more time. He literally had that talk the day after Kobe Bryant passed away. And it was a very impactful talk. And it reminds me of what Chuck went through, where he worked his ass off. He had a great life. It's not like it was all work and no play. And he certainly earned his right to be able to have that type of dream after retirement. But he also neglected some things. And he didn't have the right people around him to tell him, hey, pay attention to this or work on these things. That tremor, that pill ain't going to fix that tremor. There's something else going on, right? Maybe the lifestyle wasn't as optimized as it could have been to prevent such issues. Maybe this was just his destiny and this is the way it had to be, but it sure as hell is going to be influencing everybody that I work with and how I live for the rest of my life, because I got to see firsthand how health can take away absolutely everything that a man has worked for. Everything. And I remember having a conversation with them. And I asked him, I'm like, so everything you got, he had over a $2 million house down in Charleston. He had a daughter, obviously his loving wife, and they had an immaculate, beautiful mansion. I mean, just best of the best stuff. Just absolutely beautiful. Landscaping, down to the silverware, everything was just pristine and beautiful. High class people all the way through, inside and out. And I go, all these things that you have and that you did and that you accumulated, I'm like, would you give it all up to get back your health in your body? And it was no question. Absolutely. Absolutely. He would give it all away to get back his life, get back his health. And you think about that, and it just really That is a real life example of how serious this game is, and how it can impact everybody else around you. If your health is out, just take it back to my colleague, you know, taken to that story, to that situation. I took a client over to him because this coach in particular had some certifications and some skills that I did not have, that I wanted to reach out to him about, because I was dealing with a client who had certain conditions and issues that I felt like this coach could really help him out with. So we went over, we drove about an hour out to go to his location, to this coach's location. First time I met him in person. And this is before I knew he had cancer or anything like that. We go to his home gym, do his assessments, and break it down, and we talk shop for a while after that. And he's a really cool guy. And I noticed his kids would kind of come in and out of the garage to grab like water or something in between. And they were just they acknowledged each other every single time the kids came through the door into the gym to grab water. And they would always, his dad, the coach, would acknowledge his son, and his son would acknowledge him in a way that was very present and very genuine, and just like a genuine hi, or a genuine hello, or a genuine I love you, not just saying it, right? But actually like feeling it. And I felt it. And it was like, it's very unique. I took note of that. I didn't know he had cancer. I didn't know they had anything. And after we wrapped up, he and his family went for a walk. And it was like this was like a big moment for them. It just felt like a very impactful walk. Though it was very casual. It wasn't like anything like, they're getting a cooler or anything. No, they're just going for a walk around the block as a family. And I felt like very touched at the heart about that. I was like, damn, that's beautiful. But I didn't take anything else other than they're very tight knit family. Like I just respected that, and I noticed that. And so it wasn't until like a week or two later that I found out that he had cancer. And I don't know if it was through my client or if he posted something on Facebook, but I just remember messaging the coach afterwards and going, dude, I had no fucking idea you had cancer. And it's lymphoma. It's something within the bone marrow. It's something very severe. And we talked, and just kept tabs on each other ever since then. And I've been supporting him through thought and prayer and conversation. We're in the same wheelhouse together, so we talk shop from time to time as well. But seeing him post and share the things that he goes through, and his wife shares and posts the things that he goes through, and every time I read it, all they ask for is their thoughts and prayers. And they put on just a lot of love and a lot of appreciation and a lot of gratitude for what time they have together. And that experience where I got to just see a family that just took every moment as like the sweetest moment to be alive, and to appreciate their dad to be alive, to be with their dad, to have time with their dad, was very touching, and something that we all get. We get caught up in the day to day. We get caught up in the shit a lot. This morning, 4 a.m., not feeling the best, not necessarily having a reason to. It's like I want to do more in life. I want my business to be more. I want to do more, right? And so sometimes we can kind of get caught in that, like, we're not where we want to be, but we're going in the direction where we want to be, and that can be frustrating at times. But then when I see that post and go, this guy got carted off in the ambulance at 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and his wife is meeting him up at the hospital at that time. And this is a routine thing for them. Like they go through this on a monthly basis, on a routine basis, and they've been dealing with this for years. I look at that and go, you got nothing to complain about, man. Nothing to complain about. When you see and hear stories like that. But when you see people triumph and not let themselves be a victim of their circumstances, bringing it back to my guy, Chuck, that guy got up every damn day. He did the work every single day, and he pushed through every single day. His wife did the same thing. They stayed positive. They had no other choice. They pushed through. They did the work every damn day, did not let their circumstances define their outcome. Even in the darkest or the most, dismal of situations, as many would define it as, they never gave up. They never gave up. And that is the true success. Success is not a body fat percentage. Success is not a body weight number. It is just a perpetual state of progress. And the more levels of progress that we look at, the more indicators of progress that we look at, the more successful we become. In strength training, it's not just the weight that you're lifting. It's not just the reps you're doing. It's the form, it's the control, it's the poise, it's your ability to recycle shitty emotions into positive energy and to something that is going to create more positive energy and more success and more growth and influence other people and, lead into a happy day or a happy night or a good interaction with somebody else. It's multifaceted. Same thing with nutrition. It's not just about getting your macros in or getting your calories in. It's about the quality of food. It's about where you're getting that food. It's about, what time you're eating that food. It's about overcoming, going to a party and making the best out of your choices that you had. Or it's about fucking up and then actually making the right choice the next meal and resetting the whole day. Right? It's multifaceted. There's not just one indicator of progress. There's not just one indicator of success. It's multifaceted and it's a perpetual continuous state of growth. There's the mental emotional side. There's the self-awareness side where it's like, what triggers you, or where you're limited, or something's wrong, you're aware of something's wrong, you're not quite sure what that is, and then you continue to dig and find and research and implement and ask questions and show up to these calls, and then you find out an answer that's the puzzle piece that helps to create the whole picture that you're building in your mind, in your life. Right? Everybody's a different puzzle piece. Requires a different set of pieces to create the picture that you want. It's not only an individual picture that you want, but it's also these individual pieces that you get a puzzle that doesn't have the cover on the box, doesn't have the box and the picture of the image that you want. Right? You're constructing it as you build that puzzle, or as you put the pieces together. It's continuous. It's ever growing. It's always changing. It's always evolving. So I've got, ultimately this guy, Chuck, he never got better physically. It continued to get worse and worse and worse and worse, but he still showed up. He still did the work. His wife still showed up, still did the work. And that, it's unfortunate that we're not always given the outcome that we desire, but we never quit. We never stop. And so we're in states in our lives with our health today where we can take the most advantage out of it, right? We're not bedridden. We're not in a situation where we have to go to the hospital at 2:30 a.m. in the morning right now. Right? We have the ability, we have the energy, we have the knowledge, we have the information, we have the tools and the resources to be able to take what we have and make it the best possible and to prevent issues down the line, to change the trajectory of our lives and what we're going through, to change the legacy of our families, right? To influence our kids, to influence those around us. When we make the healthy choices, people are paying attention all the time, and they're taking note all the time, whether they know it or not. And you're going to change the trajectory of somebody else's life based on your decisions and your actions. And health is a very independent, very defining, very selfish, and very how do I want to say, a very standout way of being, where you are an outcast. You are somebody who stands outside of the norm, outside of the population, outside of the crowd. When there's 1,000 people over here, there's going to be 10 people over here who are going to be defining and standing for their own health, their own well-being, and their own food choices, their own health choices, their own actions. Staying in instead of going out, or doing this instead of that, or saying no when other people say yes. Just had a client who got back from a wedding over the weekend, and they had, of course, desserts galore and all sorts of stuff. And he didn't have one bite. And that was the first thing he said this morning. He goes, didn't have one bite. And I'm like, that's a win. It's a solid win. He's like, I gave everybody else desserts, but he didn't have any. And that's an example of, the challenges and battles that we go through. Other people, we don't have those temptations, but we got other things that we need to overcome. So sometimes it's ourselves, it's our mind, it's other things too. Everybody's got those different puzzle pieces, and at different times in their lives. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. I think that is, as real as it gets when it comes down to ultimately taking control of our health, is we're getting to the root causes of these things. We're getting to the root causes of the issues that Chuck went through. We're getting through the root causes of what my colleague is going through, where it is, the foundations is optimizing not only your food, but the exposure to other things around us that throw things off. Our sleep. Your sleep is probably the most sacred and most important thing that you can optimize in our health and in our lives, because it affects absolutely everything else. So the light exposure, we had light talks. We got a Metabolic Monday talk on light exposure and the effects of that. So if you haven't checked that out, go ahead and go back to the school app and look on the Metabolic Monday calls, and you'll see that Metabolic Monday call on light, where we talk about the effects of light and how it affects our blood sugar and our circadian rhythm and our hormones and all those things. These are foundational to things that ultimately lead to all the other issues that people are dealing with. And we have the power to take control of that. We have the power to be able to stop things or reverse things, and also show others ultimately how to live, and how you look, how you feel, how you act. Those are all really just representations of your choices and your health and what you stand for. So very, very powerful. So that's all I got for today's talk. If you guys got anything else to share, I'd love to hear it. Any questions, any comments? You guys got anything?
Well, this call definitely put some things in perspective. I think it was solid as usual, man. Some things to think about, and just kind of lines up a little bit more why making sure our health is top priority.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, Felicia, thanks. Pat, appreciate you showing up. Guys, we'll leave it to it. If there's nothing else tonight, then I will leave you to next Monday's call. And of course, talk to y'all in between all that. So let me know if you got anything else. Otherwise, I'll let you all go for the night. All right, very good. Take care, guys.